Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Neuhaus Education Center's annual Benefit Luncheon. For the first time, we're coming to you virtually. I'm Lisa Molosky, and I'm honored to be joining you again as your MC. This year's luncheon theme is Words Change Worlds. Who could have imagined it would take a global pandemic to bring the importance of education to the forefront? That our greatest heroes are educators, and that literacy is the ticket children, regardless of zip code, so desperately need on their journey to a bright future. Being literate is more than writing and speaking. Literacy is the foundation of transformational opportunities that can change the world. Today, we will hear from Neuhaus President and CEO Dr. Tracy Whedon and keynote speaker author Wes Moore. We will also celebrate PNC as this year's honoree. Neuhaus Education Center has been changing lives for more than 40 years. With support from donors like you, Neuhaus promotes reading success for all by providing evidence-based professional development to educators, information and resources to parents, and direct services to adult learners. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Suzanne Sklar-McCarthy and Leslie Wade, who graciously chaired this virtual event. Suzanne and Leslie, a huge thanks to both of you for doing an amazing job.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm thrilled to be chairing the luncheon this year along with my dear friend, Suzanne. First, we would like to extend our gratitude to the generous donors who made this luncheon possible. Thank you to underwriting chairs Jana and David Weber and Marion Temple Weber, along with our luncheon committee. To see a full listing of our generous supporters, please visit the link on your left-hand side of your event dashboard. I'm here because of my personal connection with Neuhaus. My daughter Elizabeth was diagnosed with dyslexia as a second-grade student. She's now in high school and is a confident reader because of the support she received from a Neuhaus-trained specialist. Since then, I've learned that Neuhaus does more than train dyslexia specialists. They work to prevent reading failure before children fall behind by training general education teachers how to implement the science of reading in the classroom. These structured literacy methods are beneficial to all students, especially vulnerable children who are learning English as a second language, living in poverty, or struggling with learning differences. Now here's Suzanne.
Thanks, Leslie. I've been a supporter of Neuhaus and its mission since my daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia 8 years ago. This organization went from being a tremendous asset to our community to a gift for our family. I can't imagine where my daughter's self-esteem and literacy skills would be without the Neuhaus-trained therapist who knew how to meet her needs. Inspired by the Neuhaus approach to reading instruction, I went on to take professional development classes for myself. Now, I work one-on-one with struggling readers using the skills I learned from the Neuhaus experts. It's so rewarding to see my students flourish as their reading abilities grow. I consider myself one example of how the impact of Neuhaus is exponential. By giving me, one educator, the knowledge of how to teach reading, I've now impacted the lives of many students. We're so excited to showcase Neuhaus Education Center today and honor PNC for their work in the Houston community. Thank you for joining us to learn more about how Neuhaus is changing lives, even while we overcome challenges in this ever-changing world.
Thank you, Suzanne and Leslie. Your leadership is so appreciated. Now we'd like to share a glimpse of the incredible impact Neuhaus has had in schools with teachers, parents, adult learners, and children. The following interviews and video were filmed prior to COVID-19.
Good morning, Daryl. Santiago, Damien Briones, let's go.
Jefferson Elementary is located in the heart of Houston. We are a typical urban elementary school. Approximately 96% of our students are minority students, and approximately 94% of our families are economically disadvantaged. A few years ago, we were unfortunately in IR status, improvement required by the state of Texas.
Good job.
At that time, we knew that partnering with Neuhaus was going to be the instrumental key for us to move forward and be able not only to help our students, but even before that step, to help our teachers have the right tools to make sure that our students were literate. Because of Neuhaus, our students' performance in reading has gone up from 48% to 80%, and a quarter of our students are performing at a master's level.
I've been teaching kindergarten for the past 15 years, and for the past 6 years I've taught Neuhaus. And I can honestly say that without question, it's the best reading program that I've ever taught. Good. Okay, writing. It's a research-based approach to reading that systematically moves all students towards mastery. They learn things such as letter names and sounds, they grow in their oral language, and most importantly, they become readers.
Jefferson Elementary is a beacon of light. They have been absolutely relentlessly focused on getting reading right the first time. And because of that, they were deserving of additional support. Because of philanthropists, we've been able to help them go to the next level by focusing on writing.
Neuhaus is a significant investment, but without their generosity, without their funding, without their support, a lot of the work that has happened here would not have happened.
What the business community is trying to do, and what I'm trying to do as public policy director at the partnership, is to find the folks out in the community like Neuhaus who are actually doing the work. And I think that Neuhaus is a perfect example of the success that we can have regardless of the student's background or what zip code they come from. They can learn, and not only learn, but they can excel in their academic career. And Jefferson Elementary is a perfect example of that.
Neuhaus has made me a better teacher by having the patience with my kids, teaching them those skills that they're going to need to be a phenomenal reader.
Oh, you do it. You do it without me. Ready? Nay.
Neuhaus is giving them the ownership of their learning.
What we've experienced as a shoulder partner here at Jefferson Elementary is not a fluke. It is a replicable model. And Neuhaus has been replicating that effect locally and beyond. Every child deserves what children at Jefferson are receiving.
At first they say, oh, I can't read. And then as it starts to dawn on them that they really are reading, you have these genuine, kind of authentic smiles that can't be faked that just begin to form on their faces, that they realize that everything that we've been doing every day has really begun to pay off, and they're readers, they're reading. And that, as a teacher, is just one of the best feelings that one can have.
Giving the kids the Neuhaus strategies and letting them know that they can compete with anyone, that's our passion.
I know that the work that my teachers are investing in daily is working, and it's having a greater impact, not just on the students themselves, but with their families, with our community, with our city.
Neuhaus impacts the lives of so many. Now we will look at how Neuhaus has innovated to sustain its impact while maintaining social distance. To tell us about that, please welcome Neuhaus President and CEO, Dr. Tracy Whedon. Tracy?
Thank you, Lisa. The year 2020 was incredibly transformative for Neuhaus. We rose to the challenge presented by COVID-19. Because our mission of reading success for all is more compelling and impactful than any obstacle we faced. Our staff focused on the opportunities the crisis presented and designed a virtual delivery system for 100% of our courses, as well as virtual coaching, while maintaining uncompromising excellence. What we have learned collectively has allowed Neuhaus to serve even more teachers, families, and adult learners than ever before. Those who are champions of educational change are so much more impactful and can accelerate student success when we align and coordinate our efforts in service to our community. Closing a COVID-sized opportunity gap is more important than ever. Life is all about how we choose to frame what appears to be an insurmountable obstacle. You and I always have a choice in challenging circumstances. Become bitter or become better. We have embraced the challenge and look to the future with excitement and hope about the possibilities. We are running our race well on this bridge leading to a post-pandemic reality. 2 out of 3 students who cannot read proficiently by the end of the 4th grade will end up in jail or on welfare. We need a new social contract with families that holds the promise of literacy success for the entire family unit. The innovative practices Neuhaus has implemented are so promising and exciting. Yet there is more to learn about overcoming the distances that separate us from educators who need us and the students they serve. We need your support in this life-changing work that transforms the family tree through literacy. During challenging times, I focus on gratitude. And at Neuhaus, there is so much to be grateful for. I am grateful for the educators who strive for excellence despite the burdens of this pandemic. Our dedicated board members who serve as a North Star for my team and me. The generous donors who continue to prioritize literacy because they know it is the foundation upon which success in any profession is built. Finally, I'm grateful for our children who inspire and delight us. We work so they can achieve their dreams. Next, I'd like for 2 of our program leaders to share exactly how the Neuhaus mission has flourished during the COVID-19 pandemic. First up, welcome Laura.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm Laura Spates, Vice President of Family Support and Adult Literacy. Imagine discovering your child has dyslexia during this pandemic. You try your best to support their virtual learning, but you know they need more help. Our Neuhaus experts have answered hundreds of calls from parents and caretakers in this exact situation at no cost. We also supported parents of students with an existing diagnosis who needed tools to help navigate this new learning environment. First, we give them hope. Next, we provide free resources, referrals, and seminars tailored to parents of struggling readers. Pre-COVID, our resources were hosted here in Bel Air, Texas. Hundreds of parents would visit us each year. Now, we share everything virtually. And while we miss seeing people in the building, this change increased our capacity exponentially. We're no longer limited by our building size or distance. We are thrilled to be able to help more families through technology. The Adult Literacy Program provides instruction to adults of all ages who struggle to read. Our unique program is taught by certified academic language therapists, professionals who are equipped to support students with dyslexia and related disorders. We also converted these classes from face-to-face to a virtual model. Our adult students are on a roll and have gained an added skill, computer literacy. The lives of our adult literacy students are transformed as they become stronger readers. Our graduates have accessed better jobs, made more informed health decisions, and enjoyed reading to their children. Our adult literacy students will celebrate their incredible accomplishments with a virtual ceremony presented by Edith and Robert Zen at the end of this spring semester. A few of these students are here to share with you all today.
I'm Felix Cisneros. Over a year ago, I was searching online for a place that could help me because I had a secret. I could not read. I found Neuhaus and I called them. I got into a class that improved my English, my spelling, and my education. It was like a switch. Reading opened my life. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Ashley Gordon.
And I'm Mary Gordon, Ashley's mother.
I'm a student at Neuhaus. Because I was diagnosed with dyslexia, I have accomplished more things than I ever imagined because of Neuhaus. They told me never give up, always persevere.
I was diagnosed with dyslexia at the age of 58, and I could read, but I couldn't comprehend. Neuhaus changed my life. Thank you, Neuhaus.
Hi, I'm Chow. My literacy journey with Neuhaus has been life-changing. As a non-English speaker, struggling with reading and writing due to dyslexia, I've been able to achieve my lifelong goals due to their expertise in the science of reading. Since my first class 2 years ago, the change in my life has been dramatic. I own my own business, and I'm going to college. Without Neuhaus, I would not be the success I am today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Allison Peck, Vice President of Teacher Professional Development. When a teacher is taught how to recognize signs of a struggling reader and provide the right support, they have the power to save a child from years of frustration and embarrassment. These children are much more likely to stay engaged, read on grade level, and complete their education. Neuhaus offers a full menu of professional development options, appropriate for educators of all types of students. Class lengths range from 3 hours to 12 days. To help educators implement what they learn in their own classroom, we also offer follow-up coaching. We have pivoted all of our training and coaching services to a virtual model. This required extensive focus from our instructional staff and curriculum design team. With support from people like you, Neuhaus was able to invest in technology to make sure students didn't fall further behind in reading this past year. Today, I am honored to celebrate recent graduates from our most intensive offering, the Dyslexia Specialist Preparation Program. This nationally accredited program provides extensive coursework and supervised practica, leading to certification for teachers and therapists. These educators will have an incredible impact on children with dyslexia. A few of our new therapists are joining us to share their stories. A listing of our graduates is on the left-hand side of your dashboard.
Hi, I'm Sherry Vaughn, a recent DSPP graduate working at 2 area schools. Even though I already had a master's degree in reading when I began this program at Neuhaus, I was amazed at the amount of new knowledge I learned about the structure of English and how to help students become better at reading, writing, and spelling. Equipped with this new knowledge, I started working with several students through the Neuhaus referral program. Neuhaus has provided practical strategies that help me assist students to overcome academic struggles. The difference I noticed in my students is astounding. They gain confidence. These are students who struggled because they were not able to read as well as their peers. Thank you, Neuhaus, for helping me learn how to reach students and make a difference in their lives.
I'm Holly Forrest, and this is my 13-year-old daughter, Adele. I started my journey as a dyslexia therapist when my daughter was identified as having dyslexia. Currently, I am a curriculum specialist for dyslexia in the Houston Independent School District. The same instructors who taught me about the reading process many years ago as a new teacher were my mentors in the Dyslexia Therapist Preparation Program. I am so grateful for a place like Neuhaus that has helped me help my own children, students at my school, and teachers in my district.
Neuhaus has helped me to be more confident in reading and writing. I'm so thankful my mom can help me and kids like me achieve greatness. I know none of this would be possible without the dedication of my mom and the amazing program Neuhaus provides. Thank you, Neuhaus.
Hello, I am Katie Both. Neuhaus has influenced my life in so many incredible ways. I believe I have a unique perspective. I am dyslexic and a certified academic language therapist. I also have a son who is dyslexic. My son and I learned how to read through the Neuhaus Basic Language Skills curriculum. During the years I taught in the classroom, I used Neuhaus curriculum to introduce foundational literacy skills. What I realized was there is a shortage of highly trained educators who could work one-on-one with students who needed the extra support. Currently, I am working with several students in the Houston and Katy areas. The intensive literacy instructional strategies I learned through Neuhaus allows me to help my students discover valuable literacy skills that enable them to become lifelong learners. It is a joy to witness my students gain a strong literacy foundation and develop a love for reading.
Today, we're honoring a special group of people who have made the incredible work of Neuhaus possible. Please welcome back Dr. Tracy Whedon, who will introduce this year's honorees. Tracy?
Thanks, Lisa. The work of Neuhaus is fueled by like-minded partners with a passion for literacy. We embrace collaboration, and we combine efforts with organizations working with experts in the field. On behalf of our boards and staff, it is my sincere pleasure to honor PNC for their commitment to literacy.
I'm Julie Suddeth, Regional President for PNC Bank in Houston. I can't tell you how honored and proud our PNC team is to be recognized by the Neuhaus Education Center at the 2021 Annual Luncheon. We feel fortunate to have community partners like Neuhaus that share a common view with us that investing in young children is the key to a bright future for our community.
Good, Miriam.
I'm Linda Nunnery, Vice President of Client Community Relations for PNC Bank. This year, our grant to Neuhaus helped them convert their programming to a virtual format. When COVID first hit, everything needed to be delivered online. So our grant helped Neuhaus purchase that software and hardware they needed so they could do just that. We're so proud to be able to provide that support and allow Neuhaus to continue to serve.
Thank you, Julie and Linda. Now it's time to introduce our keynote speaker, Wes Moore. Wes is a decorated Army combat veteran, Rhodes Scholar, New York Times best-selling author, and CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation, a large poverty-fighting organization. Wes joins us today from Baltimore, Maryland. Welcome, Wes.
Lisa, thank you, thank you, thank you. It is an absolute joy to be with you and the entire team from the Neuhaus Education Center. I'm a big fan of your work and a big fan of your impact, and I'm grateful for everything you continue to do to fight for all of our students. And I think it's been said, this has been a really complicated year for so many of us and for so many different reasons. We've watched how we've seen 11 years of job growth go away in 11 weeks. We've seen how families have been thrust into complicated situations and circumstances in a way that it's not just that they were unprepared for it, it's our entire society was unprepared. And heartbreakingly, we've watched the educational prospects for so many of our students be rattled to its core, and especially those students who might have learning differences. I think about the challenges that we all see and that we all face, and what it must be like through the eyes of that 3-year-old, or 7-year-old, or 9-year-old, or 13-year-old. A person and a young person who is still very much trying to find their way and find their footing. And to know that now we're being told to not just socially distance, but also just as we might have been able to find a flow within our educational process, to now know that that entire educational process has now been turned on its head. We know that these times are complicated, but that's why the Neuhaus Education Center and your work matters as much now as ever before. We use science and we use data to understand what are the best ways of being able to connect our students with their overall potential. We use that information to know that as we have students who are coming in with various learning differences, that we have ways of being able to make sure that they know that not only are they seen, but their educational prospects can bring them anywhere in the world that they choose and they desire to go. And we know, and you fight for every single day, the importance of keeping literacy at its core. I can tell you right now, had it not been for the importance of literacy, had it not been for the importance of books, had it not been for the importance of the fact that these books opened up a new world to me, that my story and my situation would have looked completely different. Now, I remember when I first started realizing that I was falling in love with the written word and that I was falling in love with literacy. Because as I was coming up, I came up at a time when, my mom started realizing what I liked, and she started realizing very quickly what I didn't like. I only have a couple memories of my father. And the first memory I had of him was when I was only about 4 years old. And my mother had a bunch of rules in her house. But one of the big rules that my mom had was that men do not put their hands on women. And so I have an older sister who's about 6 years older than me, and I have a younger sister who was about 13 months younger than me. And me and my older sister used to get into fights, and not like little fights. I'm talking like real serious fights here, right? And every time we would fight, my mother, she would grab me. She'd be like, "You do not put your hands on women. You do not put your hands on women." And I'd explain to her every time I'd fight my older sister, and I'd say, "But mommy, that's not a woman. That's Nikki. That's different." And she didn't see the difference between the two. But it wasn't until I got older that I realized that the reason that my mother was so insistent on that rule was because of her own past. And as a survivor, she always said, "I will never tolerate that if I see it. And I particularly will not tolerate it if I see it in my son." And so my mom, every time she'd see us fighting, she would break us up. And there was one time when I was sitting there and I was minding my own business, and my mother, my sister started blowing in my face. I told her to stop, and she wouldn't stop. So she got up and ran. I ran after her, and as soon as I caught her, I caught my fist back and I punched her. And as soon as I connected, I turned around and I saw my mom. And I knew it was about to get real bad real quick. And so my mother starts coming after me. I'm sprinting in the other direction. And I ran to my bedroom, which is a small room that I think it was a bedroom that they turned into a closet. It was a closet. They turned into a bedroom after I was born. It was a room for me and my baby sister. And that was all that was really in this room. But I'm running around the room trying to find a place to hide, and there's no place to hide in this room. So finally I just sit down and I get myself mentally prepared for what was about to happen to me. And then I heard a knock on the door. And the door opened up, and it was my father. So when he walked into the room, he sat down on the bed and he put me on his lap. And he explained to me what I had done so wrong and why my job was to protect my family and not to go after them. Why my job was to protect women and not to put my hands on them. But he told me that I had to go apologize to my mother and to my sister, and he told me that he would come with me. The thing that I remember most about that moment was actually holding on to his hand as we walked together, because he was a big guy, and how my whole hand just wrapped around two of his fingers. And the only other memory I had of him was about 6 months later when he died in front of me. And as tough as I had it, or as tough as I thought, my sisters had it, the person who really had it toughest was my mom, who was now going to raise these 3 kids on her own. And in no way was this the life that she had prepared for or the life that she had expected. And so she was having a really difficult time with the transition. Finally, she moved us up to New York to go live with my grandparents. My grandfather was a minister in the South Bronx. My grandmother was a school teacher. And I very quickly found myself getting lost, where I was picking and choosing which days were worthwhile to go to school and which ones weren't. Hurting people that actually loved me so I could impress people that could care less about me. Dealing with a significant stutter that started developing after my dad died. And I found myself really struggling to gain a sense of footing. And I remember something happened around that time. When I was about 13 years old, was my mother knew that I did not like reading. I really didn't like reading. In fact, I think at that stage in my life, I think I was 2 grades behind when it came to my reading scores than other kids in my grade and other kids in my class. But she knew I loved basketball. loved basketball. And she went to the library and she found this book. It's called Fab Five. It's a book by Mitch Albom, and it's about the University of Michigan basketball team. And it was a book that was about how the University of Michigan had a recruiting class, and it was the first time in the country where the entire recruiting class, were basically the top 5 players in America, all chose to go to the same school. And usually when that would never happen before, it just never happened, where you got people who basically banded together and said, we're all going to go to the same school. So it was a really big deal, but it didn't stop there. Usually back then, players, and freshmen in particular, didn't start. They sat for a year, maybe 2. Then by their junior year, they started playing. But when freshmen went to college campuses and played, it was always to sit behind people. Not only did 1 start, or 2, or 3, or 4, but all 5 started. First time in college basketball history that the entire starting 5 were all freshmen. And it didn't stop there. Not only did you have this team that recruited the top 5 players in America that started these 5 players, they took them to the national championship game in their freshman year. And there was something about this story that was so powerful to me. And the thing I loved about these guys too was that it wasn't just that they were great basketball players. It was also the fact that they played the way I knew and the way I understood. Because back then, college basketball was about passing the ball a bunch of times and doing picks for each other and all that kind of stuff and high shorts. These guys had shaved heads. They had baggy shorts. They wore black socks. They trash talked. They fast breaked up and down the court. Like, this was a game that I knew. I understood. When I watched them, I saw my neighborhood. I saw me represented. And I was in love with these guys. And so when my mom got me this book, she knew I loved this team, this University of Michigan team. And usually, again, I wasn't really a strong reader. I didn't think much about it. And my mother was like, have you started it? And I was like, well, I finished it. And this was like after a couple of days, and she was shocked. She's like, you finished that book? I said, oh yeah, I finished it. And I started talking about it, and I'm like, she's asked me questions about it. I'm like, yeah, Jalen Rose. And she was like, well, what about this guy? And I was like, no. Jawan wouldn't do that. Like, I knew Jawan Howard, but I was talking about them like I knew them. Like they were family. Because this book opened up my eyes and my world in a new and a different kind of way. And she knew she was onto something. She knew, this is how I'm going to get him. So she kept on getting me sports books, and I kept on going through them. And then eventually the sports books turned into books by James Baldwin and Paulo Coelho and Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. Books that help me to define who I am and what's my why. Books that brought me to a new place, that opened up a new world. This idea of literacy led to not just a sense of comfort, but a sense of empowerment. A true and genuine and permanent empowerment. So when we think about the importance of this work in this moment, this is not just about how are we adding a sense of stability to our children. And it's not just about how are we adding a sense of grounding to our children. This is about how are we letting them fly? How are we empowering them? How are we emboldening them? How are we uniquely letting them know that they're loved? And how are we uniquely letting them know that there's nothing that we will not do for them? The complications of this period cannot be overstated. The difficulty of what we have seen during this period cannot be overstated. The resilience that we have seen from our children, the resilience that we have seen from our students cannot be overstated. Our job, our responsibility is to make sure that we're not asking our children to have to be so resilient. How do we come up with a new way and a new frame about the way we're thinking about a rebuild? A rebuild where educational assets for all students, regardless of how we are learning and disabilities or differences, that every single one of our students understand that their pathway to not just opportunity, but their pathway to true life joy, it runs through literacy and it runs through an educational frame. What happened to me in my educational process was not that I got picked up and moved around. It was not that I ended up going to one side of town or another side of town, or I went to one school or another school. What happened to me was I found myself surrounded by people. And people starting with my mom and my grandparents, but eventually leading to this amazing string of role models and friends and teachers and advisors and ministers and philanthropists and the family of friends. People who helped me to understand that the world is bigger than what was just directly in front of me. People who helped me to understand that we lived in a big and a beautiful and a bright world, and that I actually had a place in it. People who helped me to understand that there was never going to be any accidents of my birth, not where I was born or not being born black, or not being born affluent, or not having a father who was around or present in the time that I was growing up. That none of those things were ever going to define me or limit me. And so in essence, what they did was they taught me what it meant to be free. That's what you all are providing. The Neuhaus Education Center is not just about the basic frameworks. It's about freedom. It's about letting people dream and know that their dreams will be supported by someone other than themselves. It's about letting people aspire and know that your aspirations will not be laughed at. It's about having a real and a deep and a thorough process in the way we're talking about supporting our families and our children in a way that honors the hope that lives within each and every one of them. And so I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your work, for your determination. I'm grateful for how you continue to lead and inspire. I'm grateful for the fact that we know this year and this past period has not been easy on any of us, and particularly not on our children. But I'm grateful that despite that, the only thing that means is that we keep fighting and we keep pushing and that we keep winning. Bless you all. I'm so thankful to be here with you. And I'm thankful for the work that you do today and every day. Thanks so much.
Wes, it's such a pleasure to be with you today and to connect to that powerful word, empower. Thinking about the words you used about how literacy rebuilds people from the inside out.
Amen.
And I am so excited about the questions I get to dig into with you today.
As am I. Thank you. It's such a joy to be with you.
In your book, The Other Westmore, there was a quote that says, quote, "Later in life, I learned that the way many governors projected the numbers of beds they need for prison facilities was by examining the reading scores of third graders. The link between illiteracy and the school to prison pipeline is irrefutable. There's a lot of data that backs that up. And as you think about running for governor, I'm wondering what that means to you when you think about that quote from your book.
It means that if we are not investing early, that we are not just making a mistake. It means we had better be prepared to invest more late. And I think about this in context of, sometimes I feel like for all of us, and regardless of what seat we're in, whether we are running a foundation or whether we're, sitting in seats in political life or universities or businesses or corporations, data matters. Data matters. And data should help to influence and shape how we are then turning around and spending our resources. And if you're looking at the fact that you have a direct correlation between those who are not receiving what they need to receive early, and those who will then not just be behind early, but then you'll watch that gap continue to increase as they get older. And if you look at the juvenile justice population, if you look at the adult prison population, it should not be lost on anybody that there generally are not many honor students that are sitting inside of our facilities, right? There are not many people who are at the top of their class who are sitting inside of our correctional facilities. That when we are creating these disparities, and particularly creating these disparities at a time and at an age when the young person doesn't even have a choice, where they literally are just trying to navigate in a world that has been presented to them, then it is an unfair and frankly an inhumane calculation that we are asking them to make. And so our ability to be able to put resources in early, our ability to be able to focus on the fact that we have brain development, that 80% of brain development has already begun and is taking place by the time a child hits their 4th birthday. The fact that we know how early this process starts, the fact that we know that the earlier we can get a child inside of a stable and a formal classroom environment, the fact that we know that some of the highest investments that we can make are on things like universal pre-K and universal 3K for our students. The fact that we know that the ability to decrease a measurement of class size and put more sense of personalized attention on students. We know all these things. The data continues to reinforce itself. So then the question for us really then does become, are we going to invest in the things that the data continues to show us that need investing in? Or will we continue to pay more for the long-term consequences of not actually following where the data continues to lead us?
How do we need to create a new social contract for our children, regardless of zip code? What could that look like?
This is our moment. This is our moment to rethink so many of the things that were broken and ruptured before COVID even happened. And I think about it where even going back to the book where Wes told me, and I asked him, are we products of our environments? And he said to me, actually, I think we're products of our expectations. And not only did I know that he was absolutely right, that we weren't products of our environments, we were products of our expectations. And one person once said to me, like, it's a real shame you lived up to your expectations and Wes didn't. And I said, actually, the real shame is that we both did. We both lived up to the expectations that we both thought of what we would do. And the thing about it is that we are screaming the expectations that we have for our young people every single day at them without even having to say a word. When you look at the water we're asking people to drink, the air we're asking people to breathe, the homes we're asking people to live in, the transportation assets or lack thereof that we have from them, the way we're asking people, the way people are policed in individualized neighborhoods, the schools they attend. If the school you attend actually looks like it's setting you up more for institutionalized conditions than it is for conditions of lifelong learning, then we're screaming to our children without even saying a word to them. And that's where, and that's where it just goes back to where we are is always a key indicator as to what is going to be, as to what is expected from us. And we have to remember that.
We have the highest incarceration rate in the world. So as governor, what would you want to do about changing and flipping the script where that's concerned?
Well, I think the piece is that we have one of the highest incarceration rates in the world. What we also though have is one of the highest reentry rates in the world. And I think the thing that we should be spending our time and our energy thinking about is not just the fact that we do have this poverty to prison pipeline. It's that in many ways we have a prison to prison pipeline. And what I mean by that is this, is that we have, 95% of people who are incarcerated, they're coming home. right? Only around 5% of people who are incarcerated right now are there for life or long-term sentences. The vast majority of people who are incarcerated, they are coming home. We also have close to a 70% recidivism rate. So if you have a person who's returning back home, if we're not preparing them for their reentry and we're not preparing society for their reentry, we know that we also then instead have a revolving door. And so there's both the poverty to prison pipeline and there's the prison to prison pipeline. And so we have to functionally address both. We have to functionally address how simple and easy it is for people who are living in impoverished conditions just to end up in institutionalized living. And then in the same time, focus on the fact that the vast majority of people who are incarcerated are going to be coming home. And how do we then break that cycle? How do we put them on a pathway to employment, a pathway to education, a pathway to reintegration within a family, a pathway to making them, not just law-abiding citizens, but taxpayers, but people who become integral part of our communities? These are all things and all cycles that I think we have to be able to address holistically.
I can't wait to see on your watch what happened to us. We know 85% of adjudicated youth are functionally illiterate.
That's right.
And preventing that failure, what the possibilities will be.
That's exactly
Thank you for
right.
your service.
Oh, bless you.
The very, very best.
Thank you. Bless you and thank you. Bless you and thank you.
Thank you, Wes and Tracy. What a powerful message. Wes, it's been a privilege having you here with us today. Now, please join me in welcoming back chairs Suzanne and Leslie.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate the time you've taken out of your busy schedule to join us today. You may be wondering, what can I do to help? First, help us spread the word. We want everyone to know Neuhaus is here to help with reading. Second, help us give the gift of literacy to the community. Neuhaus cannot operate without financial support from individuals and families like yourselves. To those of you who have already supported this event, we thank you. If you haven't done so, we hope you feel compelled to give today. No amount is too small, and any and every gift is appreciated.
Suzanne and I donate to Neuhaus so struggling readers can achieve the same success that our daughters have. We know the pain and frustration that comes with watching your child struggle. It feels good to help others who are in the same situation. You too can change someone's world through literacy by making a donation today. Donations can be made by clicking the Donate Now button below on the event dashboard or go to neuhaus.org/donate. Thank you for attending our 2021 luncheon and serving as an advocate for the science of reading.
Thank you again, Leslie and Suzanne. Support for reading success is needed now more than ever. It has been my honor to be part of this virtual annual benefit luncheon for Neuhaus. We all look forward to seeing you in person next spring. Thank you again for joining us today.